Find a reason to be here that's bigger than you are.
From the creators of Jesus Revolution.
Something about that little girl. I think I'm supposed to help.
Based on the inspiring true story.
My name is Sharon. I'm good at plenty of things. Taking no for an answer ain't one.
Find your purpose. Make a difference.
You want to go on an adventure?
Yeah.
Ordinary Angels. Starring two-time Academy Award winner Hilary Swank and Alan Richson. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. In theaters now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monticelli, your host of this podcast, Let's Talk Soul. Today I have a guest who's going to talk about soul, but really talk about soul. Today my guest is Lindsay Butterfield. Lindsay, say hello to our audience.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks for coming on. Lindsay here today. Well, let me talk about her. Let me first introduce her to you. All right, so Lindsay went from a burnt out overachiever, and we've heard so many, especially women burnt out overachievers in corporate America, to shining and thriving in a spiritual coaching and consulting business. In a chance encounter that led to her explosive spiritual awakening, she reconnected with her psychic gifts that were once turned off in childhood. We'll talk about that. Lindsay is an ICF Certified Life Coach. What is an ICF Certified Life Coach?
It is the credentialing body that we use in the life coaching world. It's the International Coach Federation.
Okay, perfect. And she's also a trained advanced intuitive reader, channel, and source energy healer. She now uses her transformational journey from fearing her own gifts, I imagine this was in your childhood, during your childhood, to embodied intuitive empowerment, where she guides, mentors, and advises clients across the globe to become the next level version of themselves, of the self they've always dreamt they could be. Now, a couple of things, Lindsay, first of all, because a lot of people are afraid. Yes, a lot of people are afraid of their abilities to see things others people don't see, to hear things people don't hear, or to even sense them. And when you say that you were afraid, what age are we talking about?
The earliest memories I can go back to, so very, very young.
About, preschool age. When was that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that's how it happened to me as well. And what actually, if you don't mind sharing that, what actually happened?
Sure. So most of the time when I was having the most scary experiences was when I was in the middle of the night. I didn't know what was going to come out of my closet. I didn't know what I would open my eyes and see if I woke up in the middle of the night. Right. Or feel things in my room.
Right.
And those were pretty terrifying to go through and not know what was happening.
Yeah. And did you tell anyone about that?
I told my parents, but I think there's always that idea of there's a monster under the bed, and you kind of dismiss it. Mm-hmm. And so they tried their best with the tools that they had, but they couldn't quite, I think, grasp what I was seeing and feeling from that psychic intuitive lens.
Mm-hmm. And so you said, you jumped forward, corporate America, the whole business. And when did you start the idea? When did you have the idea of becoming a coach, to coach exactly what?
I know, and that was a great question. I didn't know. So I had this call that I felt like coaching was something that I was drawn to,
when
intuitively.
You say call, you're not a phone call here, right?
Yes, not a phone call.
Yeah.
This intuitive pull. And so I did some research into it, and it felt very aligned for where I was going. Now, I hadn't had this explosive spiritual awakening yet, but it was leading up to it. And I feel like there are plans for everything and everything works out the way that it's supposed to. So I found myself really feeling aligned with going through a training program where I could be of service and help others. I'm traditionally trained as a teacher, and coaching felt like a really good next step into a new space that I felt like I could bring some of my gifts into. Now, again, this was before I'd even had my spiritual awakening, before I did any of this woo stuff. It was more of a way to start understanding myself in a new way and helping other people in a way that I know would be beneficial.
Let's get rid of that word, the woo stuff. It's so derogatory. I mean, it is derogatory, and it's as if it's non-existent. Okay. So now you're in front of this, this energy, because we're talking about energy, things that occur, things that move, things that, make noise, now from there to jump into coaching, there's I'm sure there's a lot of water that has gone under the bridge for you, because I imagine, and this is the next question, do you, or did you at that time, before you reached out to coach others, were you reading for others, in the sense that, were you acting as a medium for others? Did they come to you for mediumship? Did they come to you for energy work to clear their aura, or to find out if they had, I don't know, their homes were, full of ghosts, things like that? How did it happen for you?
Sure. So I began my coaching journey in March of 2018, but my spiritual awakening didn't start until the winter of 2017. So I didn't touch anything in this space. I went to maybe other people for readings, but it was like, this was for someone else. I don't do this stuff. I wouldn't even know how to do this stuff.
Well,
and then my spirit
still, I'm sorry that I'm interrupting, but then that it begs the question, well, why did you get into coaching? What was your aim initially to coach what,
Yeah, my initially I wanted to do leadership coaching.
I loved corporate.
Yeah. I loved managing teams, and I loved seeing people excel and providing them a way and a pathway to do that.
Right.
And so initially it was just leadership coaching is where I wanted to put my energy into.
And then that lasted for how long?
Probably about two years.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then after that, did you get into the psychic business? The actual working with energy?
No, my story starts with needing to understand myself. So as I had this spiritual awakening, I was encountering things I hadn't seen in a long time, experiences I hadn't experienced before, and I had no idea what was going on. Okay. So I spent the first 2 years alone working privately with mentors just to understand myself.
Right.
And that led into, over several years, trying to push myself and do something different, and realizing, not only do I have these gifts for myself, but I can use them and support other people. And that was where I transitioned into working with clients, blending my psychic gifts into my coaching practice, and then also doing sessions. And then as I got deeper into that, I then realized I want to learn more about energy work. I want to learn more advanced techniques. And so it was kind of this snowball effect that happened the more I learned about myself and the deeper I got into this space.
Okay, so now you're working with clients, and I come knocking on your door. I heard, this is an example, okay? I'm also working in corporate America, and the grapevine, from the grapevine I heard, there's Lindsay who has, in Italian we say, an extra, marcia, what do they say, an extra drive. It's, you go back and reverse, first gear, an extra gear. She's got an extra gear. She has, she works with things that we don't see. Okay. So I go to you and I say, sometimes I get the impression, especially when I'm sleeping at night, that things are whooshing by me. And I know I'm not making it up. I have good hearing. And sometimes I see out of the corner of my eyes some kind of white, cloudy stuff. And sometimes I actually hear things. How would you deal with me? Would you ask me, well, what do you want to do? Or what? I come to you on the one hand, not for a friendship. I don't want you to be my friend, but I want you to coach me in understanding what I'm doing or learning or about to begin or maybe take my experiences to the next level. What do you do when, I send you an email? What do you do?
Yeah. And initially people are just stepping into this, to even acknowledging that this side of the world even exists. And so the first thing I always tell them is, it's not crazy. And I also believe you. I believe everything that you're sharing with me. Mm-hmm. And I have been through this as well, where I was not what I would say a believer, or I wouldn't open myself up to the idea that there was something beyond what the physical senses can share with us. Uh-huh. And then you make this jump or leap to opening your mind and thinking about the world in a different way. And mm-hmm. so it's really that I believe you, because I think the biggest phrase I get all the time in my work is, this is going to sound crazy, or mm-hmm. I don't know if this is real or not. And I'm like, they're not mm-hmm. going to sound crazy. I believe you already. Let's have it. Tell me where you're at.
So I'm going to ask you something that you don't have to share, but give us a crazy story. One of the craziest. Do you mind? Can you share a story of a client?
I have so many.
Okay, well, choose one. Choose one that surprised even you, let's say.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I feel like I'm constantly surprised, even if I do this mm-hmm. professionally all the time. And I do past life regression hypnosis or future life or whatever, And there was a past life that we were going through, and she goes, this is going to sound crazy, but I'm riding on a unicorn and we're flying through the air and a portal just opened up, and now I'm going through this portal. And then I'm like, okay, follow the portal. And then she goes, okay. And now I've gone through the portal and I'm sitting in a wagon that we have horses in front of. And I think we're going to rescue some slaves. And I'm really scared now. And mm-hmm. I don't know what's going to happen. And she just starts crying. Mm-hmm. So that was one that was pretty intense and mm-hmm. took you on a journey really quickly.
Sure. Yeah, past life regression is interesting like that. You must record the sessions, right? You can record the sessions mm-hmm. for the clients. And it's always interesting for me to listen again to see what happened, because right then and there, you just, as a regressionist, I'm there so focused on the person's safety, because mm-hmm. a lot of people, it happened to me once that a client was going toward their death. They knew that they were going to die. And that was, I was there. I wasn't sure whether I had to pull her back or let her go forward. That for me was scary. It was scary because mm-hmm. she wanted to go right into it. I don't remember how it was, if it was drowning or something like that. But that was some experience. That was a real experience. What about psychic work that another person has been able to do thanks to your services or thanks to your counseling or your consultancy?
Life is hard, but finding a really great podcast makes the days go by so much easier. Hi, my name is Blue Telusma. I'm a writer, an emotional intelligence coach, and the host of Humanize with Blue Telusma, a podcast where we believe that when you humanize everyone in the room, a great conversation is almost guaranteed. Join us every week here on Electricast as me and my guest co-hosts unpack big topics and interview even bigger personalities with a sense of humor and a dash of mischief. If you're looking for a new best friend in your head, we've got you covered. Electricast.
Yeah, one of I would say the biggest theme is more deeply understanding themselves so that they can then understand their gifts and hear what's really going. I say hear as in like really discern what is mine and what isn't mine. What is an intuitive message versus just something that is swirling in my thought process, Some outcomes I think that, are really fun to share is, one girl that I worked with, or this woman that I worked with, she finally understood how to sort of own and take back her power instead of giving it away. And we practice working with her energy. We practice understanding what makes her energy unique and her signature, because she was physically like shocking people or she would be in situations where she couldn't quite contain it. She didn't really know how to manage her energy. I think a lot of times when we play in this space, we have a tendency to push and play, but we don't really know how to understand the nuances of what we're doing. So that's one. And gosh, there's so many. Like another one, she now knows how to work with her angels. And so there's a really strong connection that a client that I have, that she has a really strong connection with angels. I work with angels a lot as well. And so we were able to help her understand when she has angels coming through. How does that look like for her? How do we then have this two-way conversation so that you can continue to expand and grow in your soul's journey with these supportive guides that you have?
Yeah. This also leads me to another question. So in the sense, on the one hand, it would be almost considered reading for that person, but then they are learning the craft, okay? Or they're learning how to experience things. And there's a lot of times that people feel, am I really doing this? Am I, especially in past life regression, am I making this up? Or, and so I spend a lot of time talking about what hypnosis is and how, how it comes about. And a lot of psychics especially feel that they are, they're fakes, they're saying, I can't be, it can't be, it can't be. But I tell you, there's a few things that really give you the measure of your worth. One of them is when you're working as a medium and for someone, and they're contacting their loved ones, and the loved one comes up and asks specific questions that you could never know. I'll give you an example. There was a man and a woman. This woman had lost her husband 6 weeks prior to the session, and the man with her was the deceased man's brother, and he happened to be in her town, and so they both came in for the session. And at one point, because it was the wife who was more interested in conversing directly with her late husband, and at one point, the husband in spirit said, "Come on, call whatever his name is, the brother. Call him here because I have to ask him something." Okay, he comes to the computer and he says, "Listen, have you learned how to cook yet?" And so, and the man just bends over, laughing so hard. "Yes, this is him." He says, "This is him." And so then after, they told me that he was the youngest son, and the one who was deceased was the oldest, and he had to do everything for him, and it was always a chore to cook, So those kinds of things in the beginning, when I used to start doing this, it would get my hairs on end. I mean, they would literally stand up on my arms. I'm feeling, whoa, what's going? Did I do that?
Yes.
Yeah. But it does come, and the more relaxed you are, the more it enhances the more relaxed you are when you're working, the greater experiences come to you. And it's interesting. Come on, give us another story. What's another crazy story?
Well, I just want to add to that. You're so right, because when I first started doing this work, I was so nervous.
Oh, yeah.
I used to think, like, especially with channeling and things like that, like something's going to overtake my body, or I'm going to feel totally different.
Yeah.
And it was a process to really start getting more clear over time. I am a typical A-type corporate, worker, which doesn't always align with working with your intuitive gifts when you need to be in receiving mode.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh my gosh, stories.
Well, just
I know it
you
is
think
fun.
of the story, and I'll just butt in right here, because one other thing that happened to me, especially in the beginning, but not even in the beginning, because I get so excited that I always forget that we're open to negative energy hitting us so very hard, and we are almost impervious. We don't think about it, and we have to constantly clear our energy, because the more light you have, the more you are subject to negative attachments. Anyway, go ahead, let's get that story.
Oh yes. I could talk for hours on negative attachments, but because that's part of my childhood story, and was something I experienced through most of my life. So I very much
okay, we'll go to that. Let's get this first story.
But I have a fun story. So when the last job I had, I worked in consulting and my last role, and my team was really sweet. They knew I did this stuff, and so when I travel to New York a lot, and they bought me my own Oracle card set so that I could like play with it, and just they were so sweet to support. Well, we had one of our consultants that was visiting, and I was giving, just for fun, some like mini readings to people at this table. And he came by and he was like, I don't really believe in this stuff, but like, you can give me a reading, whatever, whatever you want to do. So I'm like,
curiosity kills the cat. Yeah.
Exactly. So I pull some cards and I'm talking, and I was like, I said, there's grandmother energy that's really coming through. I really feel like there's a message that's, wanting to be shared right now. Are you okay with you right now? Are you okay if I share that message? And he just starts crying.
Oh my God, I know.
And it's because his grandmother just passed away. And the first thing that came through in my reading was about this grandmother that's coming forward. Sure. And he still won't believe you, of course.
Of course not. Yeah, you must have known his grandmother.
I know. So it's stuff like this that it always cracks me up. I get questions often where it's like, what do you do with people who don't believe? And I'm like, I don't care anymore. Like, I've had too many crazy experiences happen that like, you don't need to believe. Like, I don't need to prove anything. Because I feel like for a long time where I also felt like I needed to prove myself. My readings needed to be good enough. And I've definitely shifted out of that mindset, which it's like, I show up and share and provide messages that need to be shared. And I don't get caught up in the stories around, was that good enough? Or did I share enough? Did I get into enough detail?
Sure. What's interesting is that I didn't expect. As soon as somebody knows or finds out that I'm psychic, they're afraid. As if, what do you see? They asked me. Well, I said, I'm not working now. I said, as if I'm always on and I can see right through them. I said, if you want me to look for something, ask me. But I'm not there. I don't do everybody else's business. I don't care. That would make me crazy.
I know, and I would be tired. Like my brain has to be. I have to open up and be totally focused. I mean, sure, you can tap into people's energy when you're out, but like, I get that too. Where it's like, I'm not reading you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't have time or the energy. Like, I'm just here to like have a glass of wine and catch up. Like, I'm not working.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, well, I can understand. But what I don't understand is the fact that all people don't understand that they also have the gifts of of an intuitive nature, could be a certain percentage higher or lower, but they do have them. And I don't think it's fear that holds them back. I think it's paying the bills, clocking in at 9, that kind of stuff. They don't have time, I gotta go get gas, do the shopping. And I think that's why there's not much awareness, because you just can't be aware. If I was aware of everything, I'd be driving the car to work would drive me crazy. But it's sort of and also there are two ways of being psychic. There are many, many people who just go about their business and they have what they call, or what is commonly called, a download. In like coming down from the sky into their hands, they get information, and I find that to be very intrusive. And and the other way is you just do go about your business. When you want something, somebody comes to me, I'll just tune in and I'll get the answers. And that has saved me, the way you just don't leave yourself open, because we're full of ghosts all over the place, spirits all over the place. Thank God we can't see them literally in their energy. It would drive me to drink. I'll tell you one thing. A colleague of mine, another psychic, was talking about the sounds that she had been able to hear, and she was able to record them of the spirit world. I said, yeah, how'd you do that? How do you do it? He said, all you have to do in the quiet of in the dead of night, if you have a long lasting recorder, just put it in a room and you'll hear it. Well, sure enough, that night I did it. I got my trusty electronic device out, stuck it in the living room. I went to the bed on the other side of the house. When I woke up, I was listening to a party. I mean, all of a sudden you hear shoo, 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 and it wasn't wind, because there was no wind. And that really surprised me. That surprised me. Yeah. The fact that you could actually record them for someone else to hear, instead of tuning into what their messages could be to you, for someone else. They're just having a chat, or, having some tea in the living room. That surprised me.
I love that.
Yeah, that was surprising to me. So what's your next endeavor? I mean, we have, in Italian, we have this expression, you have dreams in your drawer, you put them in the drawer and you have them come out when you're ready to have something new happen in your life. Do you have some kind of program project coming up, or thinking?
I do, and it's funny that you ask, because you kind of
I'm
touched on it. You know me. It's like, you know me.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's so funny because you touched on it a little bit earlier, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were talking about, you brought up, like, I feel like there are two different types of psychics. Mm-hmm. And I have a bit of a different but slightly similar viewpoint on it. Uh-huh. I actually look at it like we have two types of psychics. Yeah. And I'm being overly simplistic here. Okay. But I feel like there are, when we think about so let's think of, like, and this is for the audience, let's think of high and low frequency based on a scale of 1 to 1,000. Okay. I believe there's a huge chunk of psychics who are in the 400 to 600 range. Uh-huh. And there are fewer psychics in the 700 and 1,000 range. These lower frequency psychics are coming from a place of fear, ego, and that even opens up their messages to lower entity type of information. I'm in Argentina currently right now, and I've seen this with people here, but I see it all over social media, and it really is something that has inspired me to go back to my roots of teaching and begin to teach people who are interested in developing their psychic gifts, channeling gifts from a very high frequency place. Yeah. We need more of that, and we need less people in their ego and fear-based using
the question that arises here is, and I know my answer, but I'll just pose you the question. How can you raise your frequency? How can you, if they have low frequency, they're working as psychics and, they get hit with negative attachments all the time. what can they do to raise their frequency?
Sure. I'll be very blunt.
Right.
It's a choice. It's
Yes.
a choice to receive negative stuff all the time.
Yes, obviously.
But
it's a choice.
yeah, right. So like ultimately we are responsible for ourselves. We are the answer. We are the healers for ourselves.
Sure.
So it all starts from within. And going back to how can I raise my frequency? Well, that goes back to one of the things that I think is a very like hot topic now, but it's this idea of inner work. And something that I teach is in order for you to ascend or move towards these more high frequency gifts, you need to address the shadow and some of the more tough aspects within.
Sure.
And as you do this inner work to understand yourself more deeply, you will shift out of this lower frequency and you will begin to align more with higher frequency aspects, gifts, messages, alignment. You will see it show up in your daily life, but it first starts with you doing the work. And I think one of the biggest things that I have with my clients is they will come to me. They're like, I want to like grow my business. I want to do this. I want to do that. And we get like 3 sessions in and they're like, I've got to start doing my inner work. Like I've got to start addressing some of, and I'm like, oh, really?
Oh, it's about time. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I'm very much a believer on if you really want to grow and really have high frequency, high sophisticated gifts, you need to be in a higher state of consciousness and higher state frequency. Yeah. And so the work that I'm doing now is rooted in that idea of how can I train and teach others to teach this to others, but then also understand how to work and be from a place of high frequency, psychic, intuitive channeling abilities. And so I'm creating a school, but I'm creating a practitioner program to teach these topics. So that is the next phase.
So you will contact me when that starts getting off the ground, promise me, and we'll have you back. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a talk with Lindsay Leigh, Butterfield, and you can find her website is Lindsay, LINDSAY Leigh.com, and her Instagram account is at Lindsay Leigh Official. You will. It's a promise, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard her right here on Let's Talk Soul. She'll be coming back. Thanks for coming, Lindsay. It was a joy to talk to you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow Let's Talk Soul Podcast on Instagram. Let's Talk Soul Podcast is a production of Electrocast Media. Our executive producers are Mark Netter and Peter Rafelson. If you like our show and like what you hear, please subscribe and give us a rating wherever you enjoy podcasts. And remember, stay curious, stay inspired, and never stop exploring the depths of your soul.
Hey, what's happening out there, everybody? This is Lawrence Ross, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my podcast, The Lawrence Ross Show. Egomaniac. It's a 2-hour weekly exploration into my mind. I also do sketches, celebrity impersonations.
You're out of order!
And I also do song parodies. Not too shabby for a blind guy.
Not only are you visually impaired, but you are geographically impaired.
New episodes are released every Friday. Check it out on your favorite podcasting platform or listen to it here on Society 13 on Electrocast.
Are you passionate about saving the planet for future generations? Do you want to learn how to do it? If yes, then you need to tune in to the Nature Backed podcast. It's a talk show covering the changing world around us, from renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, circular economy, to ESG and social innovation. Don't miss this opportunity to discover how you can join the movement and make a difference. Subscribe to the Nature Backed podcast today on your favorite platform and get ready to be amazed.